Hello, hello. Can anyone hear me?
Yep.
Hey, great. Can you see my screen?
Sure can.
Okay. Do we have any pre-submitted questions for today?
We do not.
Okay. Having all sorts of problems with Zoom today. All right. So, guys, if you have any questions, please feel free to shoot them out there, or just use the raise your hand function and ask, and we'll start answering them for you. Let's see here. Nobody's got any questions today? Someone must have a question. Well, I'll give you guys a second. I'm going to grab the power cord from my laptop.
Yeah, I might as well just ask since I'm typing too slow. On a, if you've got a drop-down list, but the selection that you want the person to say it's a new account that you haven't added to that drop-down list, is there a way that you can make that drop-down list accept the entry that they've typed, even though it's not part of that existing list? I couldn't find a way to. It kept giving me an error that it wasn't part of the list.
So you have a drop-down list with email addresses or something, and you want them to be able to type in an email address?
Yes. So say that email address that they say it's a new employee and that email isn't in that list yet. So they typed in the new email address. Can you put that typed entry as an output, even though it's not part of the list?
I don't think so. There is an allow other, but I think that's for values to be passed in. Let's create a flow. Let's create a quick test scenario here. I think often what we do is use like a visibility rule to show like a text box, like if it's for a new one. Let me just get a form set up here so we can see. So here's a drop-down list. I'll say type string. Let me put a button on here. Type string, list input source, data name. Data name is DD list. This will be selected item. Okay. And then there's output only override. There's a one in here. I believe it's allow other.
You passed it. Scroll up a little bit.
Did I?
Allow external values to be selected. Yeah, scroll down a little bit more. Right there.
No,
right there.
But does that allow you just to pass it in, or can you actually? That's the piece I'm unclear on.
Yeah, let's test it. I think you can pass it out. I'm not 100% sure.
Let's put a string list here. Hello, Jessica. Nice
Hey,
to speak to you.
Yes. Figured I'd pop in and say hey to everyone.
To go pro level. Help us. All right, so let's get at this. So this is list of strings here. Selected item, I will ignore. And then I guess what I need to do is I could use like a pop-up here. And on pop-up, I'll pass in the selected item to both the subject and the body here. And then list of things is not valid. Why? List of things is a string list. Okay. Reselect this. Okay, there's that. Now let me just add some strings here. So, all right, there we go. Now let's see. So I should have hello world here, and I can type in OK. So you want OK to actually be taken as the selection?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So
now there's got to be lots of constraints to this.
I'm on 7, and I don't have that option in the output. that you had.
Really? It might be based on the type. I bet a complex type is not going to allow you to do that. What's the type of your drop-down list? I'm sure it's going to be a primitive type only. Like maybe it's a complex type.
Yeah, I'm feeding it from another data structure.
Yeah, if you think about it, I don't see how it wouldn't know how to pass the object out.
Gotcha.
So if you do want that to happen, you could use, you could have like a list of accounts and then pass the emails in, and then you could build up a list of accounts on the output, like sort of before and after the step here.
Yeah, that makes sense now. Okay, I understand.
Yeah, I
So if
wouldn't
it's
be
a
able to
simple
figure out.
string, you can do it, but
Mhm.
because it's a complex, gotcha. Okay.
Yep. Good to know. I thought this only let you like pass in. I guess that wouldn't make any sense because I could just build an array here if I wanted to and build whatever I want. So yeah, so let's quickly see if I edit this, and let's confirm that. I'll edit this. I'll change the type from string to account, which is here. Now, if I refresh this, yeah, there doesn't allow that. But if I come back, I bet if I do like what if I do like an int? Will give it to me for int? Doesn't give it to me. So only strings is what it appears to be. Allow external values. Yeah, it looks like only a string list is going to give you that capability.
Yeah, and that makes sense. Yeah.
But yeah, what you could do.
The concept makes sense.
Right, yeah. Well, we're not doing you any favors here by letting you know it only shows up in certain spots. But yeah, so you could like fetch accounts, pass the emails in, and then you do like another fetch entities, like something like this. Let's just make this design real. So get rid of this thing here. So this is going to fetch accounts, right? And then I won't fetch by anything. I want all accounts. And then I'll pass in the entity results all email address. So give me all the email addresses as a string. Then what I could do is do the same kind of thing here. But what I can do is use the no results and results path here. And I'll say fetch where email address equals. And then I'll take the email address from the selected item. And then what I can do is something like, I'll get rid of the pop-up here, is let me find a create data step. And so, results will do, not results, will do, let me change this to show path for single result here. What I'll do is change a thing called select, I'll make this selected account. Change this type to account. Where did it go? Oh, right there. No. Try that again. Account. Okay. And then I can pass in the entity results from my fetch entity step. But on no results path, I could declare, so here's no results. I could do then on this, I could do like do build data, select email address. And then email address will take the value from selected item and then go. So no matter which path I go down, I'm either going to get an object, I'm going to either get a real account, or I'm going to start building a new account. And so if I ran this again, and so this should now be my accounts. So if I do will, it goes through here, and on the output of this, I have the whole will at decisions.com account. If I run this again, and I say will one, now it's going to go down no results, but then I could either, basically run like a create statement or do something here to actually build that account up if I needed it. And then the path this other fetch entities takes allows me to confirm if it exists or is a brand new thing. And that way you still can retain the user experience of allowing them to enter that value in and have the workflow engine do all the translation for you. So
nice. I like that. Thanks.
Yeah. Anything else related to this?
No, that was my only problem. Okay,
awesome. Thanks for the question. So All right, so is it possible to customize the designer studio? If so, to what extent and what is the effort like? I think I know some of the basis for the question here. There's a lot you can do to constrain. So one of the first things is, we oftentimes work as administrators. So if you are a designer user, you only have access to what you're given access to. And so that means we can break up folders into different designer teams, and they can't see everything. That means they can only see and edit the pieces inside of the folders they have access to. Some customers want to hide the ability to create data types or integrations. We can build configuration folders to hide these actions here. We can use system administration designers, toolbox customization. It's not element rules, is it? Yeah, element rules, toolbox rules. We can hide steps from users. So if we don't ever want anyone to be able to run the raw SQL step, we can add a toolbox rule that would hide the raw SQL step from our users. So if there's certain quote unquote dangerous steps, we can remove the ability for our designers to make use of those things. Let's see, what do we have for? I bet we don't have a good doc for this. Designers use configuring the studio for multiple team use. Okay, this is inside of the designer studio. So this is about groups. Okay, add folder. Okay, so this is all just about setting up the folder structure, shared project folder, creating a team specific folder. Yeah, so I think Brian, I'd say you could look at this, plus look at using the toolbox rules to hide steps, as well as configuration folders to hide actions. So if you only ever wanted someone to be able to create rules, you could really build a folder, designer folder, hide all the other behaviors, have rules only. You could use, what is it, defined interfaces to so that all the rules have the same inputs and outputs. You can, let's say the sum total of this document plus those two other concepts gives you a lot of control over what users can access while in the studio.
Okay, thanks, Will.
Does that help?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I would like to see this document fleshed out a bit more. And this is probably could be slightly rewritten to be more grammatically correct. But to have this be more about constraining, maybe there's a document we need here constraining user access in Studio, or removing options from designing users in Studio. Maybe that's a separate document.
Yeah, I can put in a request for it if you like.
Well, I think we have a doc team member on with us today.
Yes. Still put in a request, please.
Sure.
Okay. Who else has got a question here? Oh, toolbox visibility rules. See, there we go. Updated.
That's a pretty good document. I saw that one as well.
So this has a report, had to create for the report designer. Oh, interesting. Toolbox customization, element rule designer, make sure it's enabled. Okay. If the type is report, well, interesting. Cool. Who else has got questions? Okay. just gonna look through docs. We can all learn through osmosis, design best practices.
Hello.
Hey, Alex. Hey, how's it going?
I'm well, thanks. How are you doing?
Good. What you got?
Well, so I'm just curious, for security groups, is there like kind of a where used functionality for that? Like where they're referenced?
We might not have one out of the box, but you can definitely write a report. Let's see. If we look at groups, on accounts, we definitely have account permission. Oh, where's my? I must have upgraded from an older version, and something's wrong. There was an error with this report. What's wrong with that report? Error on inquiry. Invalid object name. Oh, doesn't. Okay, well, it doesn't have, my local doesn't have. Okay, so we can definitely see, let's just write a report. It doesn't look like we have one out of the box unless it's hidden from me. But let's just go write a report. So this is group permission audit, something like that. And the type for the we're looking for here, create report, report, default, create is going to be, I think if we just search access, yeah, account folder access right and group folder access right. So if I come here and add entity name and entity folder ID, and then can I join this to parent folder? Join, yeah, wonderful. Join containing folder, and then there I can get in entity name. So yes, so now, so what do I have here now is, now this doesn't show me the permissions for each, but if I run this, I think I can edit them.
Yeah, so I'm kind of thinking more, you know, when you right click on an object, you can say show dependencies.
Mm-hmm.
So like, for example, I have a security group and I'm wondering why I have this security group.
You specifically?
Well, it like kind of in a generalized fashion, like, so if I'm using it in a rule to find out like sort of like, does someone belong to this security group? Is it
Mm-hmm.
tracking that type of information?
Not, so a lot of times those are just strings, right? Like if we're talking
Right.
about a rule.
Yeah.
Now you can create your arbitrary dependencies. If you look at dependencies, you can declare, and I could declare dependencies between things. So manage declared dependencies. Let's see. It's only giving me a small list. Let's see here. Declare. So theoretically, if I had like a rule and I knew that rule, you know, let's say it had like a initiating user groups list type contains logic, right? Let me just, good Lord, locals suffering.
Like, is this something that could be kind of asked at the database level, like just looking, like doing
Yeah.
a text search of the database to find a particular string?
Well, I mean, you could query are we really only talking about rules here, or are we talking across a platform?
No, I don't, I'm just basically, I have created some security groups and now for the life of me, I can't figure out why I created them. And so I'm kind of like thinking, where are these things being used?
Well, sure. So let's write a rule here really quick, and we'll say if the flow data initiating user groups list, right?
Yep.
Contains, or list contains, and then I'll just put, bad decisions. That's the name of our kickball team. Shout out, we made the playoffs. So what if you're really only talking about the rules? We do save the phrases. So if you in a table called rule, I believe it's rule phrase. So let me search phrase here. Yeah, rule phrase. So you can. Now, oh, okay, I have a single rule. There you go. Flow data, and this actually. So if you're only talking about rules, then theory, you should be able to use rule phrase to actually to say like, where phrase contains or like, right? And
Right.
and then that gives you the rule ID. And then you could use that rule ID to search the portal for that particular rule.
Right.
If you just wanted this, because this relationship is by the name, not by the object ID. So this could quickly let you search all your rules to see, to investigate all of the different rule statements.
So, but if it were in, for example, like a string compare step.
Yeah, like a flow step.
Yeah.
Now we have a library we can give you through support. If it was a constant value, you can look at all constant mappings. So you could see everywhere where an email address or a group name was used, and we can get you access to that, or we could get that put on your server if you through support. We've used that. Customer wanted to know everywhere where a particular email address was statically defined at,
Right.
and that report allows you to see all of the constantly typed out inputs. So
Okay.
the combination of those two things together might give you
Right.
the insight that you're after there.
Okay.
So yeah, if you'd like the access to that, we can get that loaded on your server. If you just want to submit a ticket through support for that. It's not yet part of the product. It's just like a SDK sort of library right now. But it's just a report. It's just a report data source that you can leverage.
Okay.
And then querying this rule phrase table would let you look at all of the phrases for all of the rules.
Right.
What else do you got? Anything?
I mean, I'm still trying to figure out my other thing there, the CFR Part 11 thing, and I'm trying to figure out how to move forward on that. But I don't know necessarily that this is the right kind of form for that, but like, do you guys have like a debug version of the whatever that thing's called, agent?
No.
No.
Yeah, are you trying to use an agent flow for this? I think I remember talking to Brian about this and being confused about what he was offering you to do.
I can't remember whether I'm using an agent flow. I mean, I've got it to the point where this thing is somewhat works, but over a period of time, it seems to drift into a slumber state. And then you make a call to the agent, and and it times out. So I think it's basically 60 seconds. But then if you press the button immediately afterward, the first call seems to have awakened it, and it runs successfully.
Either way, it shouldn't time out even if it goes. It should keep an active connection. That's not really a design thing. That's something that we need to figure out for you as to what's going on there.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to care about the connectivity details, right? Just that you have created it.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just that seems to be, I'm not entirely sure how to go about debugging this. But like, for example, the agent works seamlessly for database requests, but for the test logon function, for some reason, it seems to go to sleep. And needs to be, kind of invoked to wake it up. But as long as as long as you keep calling the function within a reasonable period of time, it will keep behaving properly. But as soon as you seem to get beyond a particular threshold, it seems to lose its awareness.
Okay, I'm talking to Brian about it right now, asking him to reach out to you.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say is right now, I mean, if it does it actually, so the flow, the test login step fails, right? Like when it has this timeout, when you've waited a certain amount of time between calls.
Time's out, but again, if I rerun it immediately, it works.
Yeah, while we're trying to sort it out, you might be able to just quickly code up a like a quick retry loop. Not that that's ideal, but just to allow you to keep working and designing. Use the add outcome for error or add outcome for exception path if it doesn't have one.
Right.
And then just loop back to the step to have it call again. That might be a useful temporary sort of design,
no,
just while we try to troubleshoot it.
It's not. I mean, it's too long a delay. I mean, I know what the problem is. I just need it to get fixed.
Sure.
Because
sure.
I can't offer that to anyone right now. I mean, sure, for my purposes, I'm testing it and I see what the issue is, but before I can actually deploy it anywhere, it needs to be, kind of operating the same way as for, SQL requests into the local SQL server, which is very deterministic.
Sure. Yeah, understood. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna be able to help you with that one on this call, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I will ask him to reach back out and ensure that we keep working on that one for you.
Great.
Okay, halfway through here, any other questions from anybody? If not, I think we'll go ahead and call it a day.
Hey, well, I actually have one more on behalf of a customer.
Yeah, sure, please.
So they're curious about the limitations of the amount of fields on a data structure, and I understand from the item mapping editor, the I guess reasonable expectation is about 99, because after that we don't really have. I mean, it becomes difficult to use the item mapping editor for that.
So there is no limitation on the actual number of fields. There's certain editors that might not like the number of fields, O'Brien, but there's no limit. You could have a database table with, with hundreds of fields.
Right.
But it is true that if you look at some anything that deals with dynamic data rows, that doesn't handle it that well. Like, what's the scenario they're already seeing this in? Is it specifically the list mapping or something?
Well, the customer, they're trying to come up with a consolidated, a common data structure to use across maybe like 200 different use cases. So they're looking for all the common fields that they can group into this meta object so they can reuse it. And I immediately thought about the limitation of the item mapping editor when dealing with dynamic data rows, for example. So
but
just
as long as you're not dealing, but as long as you're not using dynamic data, then you're fine, right? So for example, let's quickly write a query here. It's probably taking an eternity because my local's suffering, but this will show us what we need to see. So this is dynamic data example. And I will select star from entity account, run and save. Okay. And then here I'll find my query step. So integration, database, local connection, and dynamic data example. So if we look here, if our return type is data rows, right? And we look at like Data Explorer, it is
Right.
true, you're gonna not be able to deal with any more than 99 fields, right?
Mhm.
But if you actually use the defined type as the output, like, you can, this list will be as big as you need it to be. Like there's no restriction on the number. The only restriction is that the properties be uniquely named,
Yeah.
not that they, there's a count limit. So it is, but like certain steps do use like dynamic data. It's like for each Excel CSV, that one does it. I'm
Run
sure
reports,
there's,
have outputs.
but you can run a report step as a defined type, right?
can.
You can create a type for your report. So like if we go into a report here, and I'll make this a type account, so you can get around this as well. So here's account data source, right? And I'll put email address and create it on date. And then on the bottom right hand side, go to results, go to report access, select generate step to run report, and name this small account, right? And then save this. You'll get a code compile because it's going to create a type with two properties, email address and create it on date. And then just like with the query step where I can swap back and forth between the type or the dynamic data rows, I'll be able to do that same thing. So if I come back into this flow, get rid of this stuff, go to integration, reporting, current folder, run report 1. And so return data is Excel or data rows, right? Or I should be able to do select type and it'll give me my small account type and I can then deal with it as a defined data object. So I can not be, the limitation there is arbitrary. And honestly, I believe it has more to do with not wanting to figure out how to get it to order itself correctly in the mapping editor than it is any kind of limitation.
Okay.
So I would say there is, it is true that, there is a relationship in terms of ease of use. The more fields you have, the harder it is to map because you have to map fields. But there's not a technical limitation in the tool. It's excusing a few sort of steps, and those steps should have other steps that can be used. So like you don't have to use for each Excel CSV. You could use import Excel CSV, which has no sort of limitation on the number of fields that can be accessed.
Got it.
So
it all comes down to how much mapping the customer's willing to do.
Yeah, you have to map the fields, right? So they could still have a data object and have it be maybe nested or yeah, if they want to have one object that has all the possible fields, then that there's just, and that it could just be a lot of mapping, but that's not necessarily a problem as long as they're aware of what the that sort of constraint. It's not a constraint, that sort of consequence.
Right.
Okay. Oh, hey, we got a late entrance. Josh, do you have any got any questions for us today? Nope. Okay. All right. Well, Brian, anything else?
No, sir.
Okay. In that case, I think we'll go ahead and call it a day. Thanks everyone for your questions. We will see you tomorrow, same time, same bat time. All right. Thanks everybody. Have a great afternoon. Thanks, man. You too.